When I was getting ready to retire from a very active medical practice, we'd been to a meeting out here at Spearfish Canyon, and my wife said, you know, we ought to think about buying land and moving out here. And I fussed at her. We had a cabin down by Yankton where I thought I'd move in. But then I got to thinking about it. I like the mountains. I like the hills. I like the climate. It's dry as opposed to East River being all humid and hot. So we ended up looking for land. Another thing I was interested in was horses. I'd always wanted to have horses, but I never had time for them when I was in college and medical school and internship and residency, and then I got in practice, and well, the Army sent me to Okinawa first and then we came back. Never had time for horses, but when I retired I decided I was going to have horses. So we looked in at horses, and one man recommended that some very gentle horses were Norwegian fjord horses. A neighbor just over the hills over here was a breeder of Norwegian fjords, and Mike introduced us to the man who was selling this land. He had 228 acres left, and I figured they're not making any more land, so we bought all of it. I thought it'd be the last place I live in, but there's work that needs to be done in the trees periodically, and I enjoyed working, but now it's getting to be just a little bit too much for me, and that brought us up here. But we've seen all kinds of animals. Deer are plentiful. There was a herd of elk a couple of years back that went crossing our land. Cougars, about 2 months ago, a cougar ran across the road down below here, just in front of us. Went about 20 yards off, stopped, turned around, and looked at me like, "What are you doing on my land?" And I looked at him and said, "What are you doing on my land?" And he just nodded his head and went off. But we've seen cougars about 4 or 5 times. I saw one bobcat. We've had the other interesting critters coming in, sitting on a hillside up here before we built the house. My wife, daughter, and sister were on a blanket, and I was sitting on a stump, and I heard this grumble going on. And I looked up, it was a porcupine. He came walking right in front of me and looked at me and just grumble, grumble, grumble. Then he walked on just like we were moving into his territory. We built the house started in 1998, 99, and I've truly loved it. We're close enough to Rapid that we can get there in about half an hour, 35 minutes. Spearfish and Sturgis. Sturgis is interesting. The motorcycle rally doesn't bother us because motorcycles don't like to go up gravel roads. And if we can go up on top of our property, look down at I-90 and see all the motorcycles we want to see. It's just been an interesting place to live. My wife and I oftentimes went up on top. For Mother's Day, about the first year we were here, didn't know what to get her for Mother's Day, so I got her a picnic table. We put it up on top, and we'd go up with coffee and little sweet rolls and sit down and talk and watch the sunset and then walk back down. More recently, we've had to use a John Deere Gator to get up there and back because you can't walk that far. But I just enjoy living up here.